Hello there, dearest friends. WhatCulture's Adam Clery here, and it is once again time for me to do the show with the arrows about the show with the X in the name or something, I don't know. Now I know I normally start with some kind of long, rambling introduction about some vaguely alluded to ratings pattern and where NXT was last week and what we can expect from this week's episode, but I'm just not going to bother with that this week because there is a lot to get through, and even if there wasn't, there's far more important things in the world right now. But life and indeed pro wrestling must go on, and go on it does this week from the Performance Center and not Full Sail because, well, we'll get to all of that. Anyway, buckle yourselves in because my name is Adam Clery. Hashtag on Thursdays, we wear yellow, and these are all the ups and downs for this week's episode of NXT. Yes, and here we go. Like I say, we open in the Performance Center and not Full Sail because Full Sail has a big week-long Hall of Fame thing going on. I'm not really sure. Either way, it was fully booked, so WWE moved to the Performance Center for what it called a fan appreciation night. It gave out tickets for free, had loads of fun stuff. Apparently, Triple H even started the live show, but we didn't see him on the broadcast. And of course, that meant that everyone was hanging around outside beforehand. Certain other fun things were going on, and that means I must open this week with a very special installment of Beu Watch. Yes, as you're probably aware, this is the groovy, jazzy up that will be awarded to an episode of NXT by default if it gives us sight, sound, or smell of Eric Bugenhagen a la Rick Buggs. And did it this week with so much going on? Oh, not quite, but close. Yes, very, very special thank you to Dave on Twitter, or at Fried Chicken Pappy, I think it was, for this video of Rick Buggs entertaining the crowd through the heat, through the queues, and through the boredom for an entire hour outside the venue before the show started. Now, I can't give Beu Watch an up this week because he wasn't technically on the show, but surely NXT, you can see how entertaining, how beloved this man is. Give us what we want. Give us a little bit of the Buggs. Anyway, onto the actual show now, and we open with Keith Lee versus Cameron Grimes. And as you will know, dear viewer, all I wanted in the entire world was for Keith Lee to now face new and varied opponents. For the North American Championship to feel like something the entire roster could aspire to. For the men's division to have this rotating focal point which 80% of its roster will benefit from because most of them are directionless. And this week, what do we get? We got all of that. Yep, absolutely great match this to start the show. A banger of ingenuity, of explosiveness, of firepower, of strength, of quickness, of everything. And of course there was no way Cameron Grimes was going to beat Keith Lee, but still he's been over-delivering in all of his matches. He feels like a worthy challenger, if not a genuine contender. And that's what the mid-card title should be full of. Grimes has had his go. It was very entertaining. He now goes to the back of the queue, and there are no shortage of other people to step up next. Now, yes, we did get bogged down with the whole Dijakovic Priest thing again, and that's probably going to be the takeover match, but on television, this is great, and loads of people can come into that spot in the future. But in the here and now, anyway, this match was brilliant. In particular, one giant avalanche German suplex from Grimes to Lee, but in the end, obviously hit the spirit bomb thing, and he retained. The match is an up. And if that was all great and logical and made a load of sense, then do you know what made absolutely no sense whatsoever? This next match. You mean to tell me, NXT, that you've been positioning Dakota Kai as one of the most villainous, evil breakout stars of 2020, someone who's in line for a real old push up that card, and you mean to tell me that she's won these two big matches against Tegan Nox to really give herself some momentum? And do you mean to tell me that you've given her Raquel Gonzalez, an enforcer on the outside, to make sure that even when she comes up short in the ring, she's still going to succeed? Do you mean to tell me that you've done all of that, just to have her lose clean to Mia Yim? And while we're on the subject of Mia Yim, do you also mean to tell me that you're going to have Kai take her out of War Games, thus leading to her inevitable heel turn, and not even really reference that in the match itself? Not even it be that brutal. There'd be no sense of payback in it whatsoever. No sense of picking up from that street fight they failed to finish all those weeks ago. They're just gonna do Irish whips, and roll each other up. That's what I'm getting here, is it? Now, Kai may well still end up in that ladder match at TakeOver. She almost certainly has to, but just in the here and now, this was a baffling slice of booking. It made her look stupid and weak and made Gonzalez look clumbersome and unuseful, and surely what you want to do is the exact opposite of that. You want Kai to look like somebody who, even if she can't beat somebody at wrestling, she's just going to beat them up here anyway. You've done all that. You've done all the hard work. And this was just an easy next step for that. And you just went, yeet, down. And, oh, right, okay. So the next match was Kushida versus Raul Mendoza. And straight up, it was a good match. It was fast, it was frantic, had a lot of good NXT elements in it. It was the kind of thing you expect from NXT, where everybody gets their stuff in and one person kind of takes the next step up the ladder. It was great, it was fine, it was perfectly functional. Under normal circumstances, I'd give that an up very easily, but no, not here. Basically, right, the way commentary were doing it was they want you to receive Kushida as a genuine big star, a big player in NXT, and of course, why wouldn't they want you to do that? When they signed him, it was this big deal. He had a conference where he wrote his name on the contract, and Triple H was there with his arm around him, and they sat him in the front row at TakeOver, didn't they? And they were like, oh, wow, this guy comes from Japan. He's like a gajillion-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. He's really, really good. He's going to come over here. He's going to change the game. And now commentary are like, yeah, Kushida, he's the best. He should be in the title picture. Yeah. And that's great. And that's great. But all this stuff in the middle is not. And all that stuff in the middle, if you want me to be specific, is him going 50-50 with Cameron Grimes in a feud over a hat. It's him going into the Dusty Classic with Alex Shelley and getting eliminated in the first round. It's him getting put in the bin by the Undisputed Era, then finally managing to get his revenge on them by, just check my notes here, losing to Adam Cole. It's him tagging with Breezango. It's him getting demolished by Walter. You can't bring him in as a big star, then tell us to receive him as a big star if you're not going to book him like a big star. Like he should be. He's brilliant. I love Kushida. He should be in the title picture here. He's that good. But until you're going to book him like that, you can't tell us to receive him like that. Commentary is meant to be an extension of the brand, of the product. It's meant to help us understand what we're seeing, not be this goddamn jarring. I want better for Kushida, and you actually have to give it to me. You can't just tell me it. Idiots, down. Sorry, I don't really know what came over me there. I really like Kushida. Anyway, I'm going to try and be a bit more positive here because there was a lot of elements of the show I liked, but a few of them are small and kind of go together, so they're only going to come in one segment. Just sit down. Now, I have made the complaint before that NXT is a brilliant pro wrestling program. It's the most entertaining 2 hours of pro wrestling on a Wednesday night, in my opinion, but it does have one glaring flaw, and that is that everything is a million miles an hour. It's intense, right from the Slipknot song at the start, everything's just like, ah, yes, and it gets very tiring. And one of the byproducts of that is when you need to advance an angle or a feud or a storyline or anything, everybody just has a brawl. They can never think of any other good ways to advance stories, so everyone just has a brawl, and after a while, you get a little numb to the brawls. Take, for example, the Broserweights. They are a breath of fresh air purely because they don't do that. They feel 10 times more interesting than they would normally because they're just so different to everything else that's on the show. But this week, we actually got some genuine slices of variety, and I really enjoyed it. First off, you got Austin Theory and Tyler Breeze having a little verbal spat backstage, which was more than intimidating. It was quite funny. Breeze didn't feel the need to slap the respect back into Theory or vice versa. He just made a funny joke about how he looked. I liked that. Then Finn Balor had a video package about facing Walter, in which he talked about how he's so good and so scary, but he can still beat him, and then he waved his passport on camera, which was very brave considering the current circumstances, but what he didn't do was go and beat up Imperium, and I liked that. And then, because the NXT parking lot is still the least secure place on planet Earth, Raul Mendoza got kidnapped by two men wearing wrestling masks. Who are they? We don't know. Where are they taking him? We don't know. But did they beat him up? No, they just kind of like ushered him into the car, and everyone was like, whoa, what's going on? And I like that. Variety, my friends, it is the spice of life. It is also the spice of wrestling, and it all gets it up this week. All right, next up, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte, and I tell you this for free, that match at WrestleMania is going to flipping bang. Like, Charlotte's brilliant, Ripley deserves it. It's probably the most hotly contested belt in the company right now. It's just all the ingredients are there. But the only danger, the only cliff edge that this could all fall off is it could push Ripley too far too soon and expose all the elements of her game, you might say, that are still to be fully developed. I mean, just think how far she's come in the last couple of months, right back to Survivor Series, to now dominating this brand, unseating Shayna Baszler, to challenging Charlotte at WrestleMania. She's 23. Like, that is a big ask to nail every single part of that, but having Charlotte lean into this worry as part of the program is brilliant. She should feel above her. She should belittle her at every turn, and she should constantly get the physical upper hand. They need to present Ripley as the underdog in this, and the way they've done this promo was class. Win or lose at WrestleMania, Ripley facing Charlotte has to be a genuine star-making moment, and you can't do that if you're already presenting her as the star in the situation. She has to feel way below Charlotte's level, so that if she wins, then wow, she's a made woman, but even if she comes up just short, she shows how far she's come. Now, yes, the promos are a little hokey in all of this and didn't quite work as well as it could have done, but the general direction of it is pitch perfect. Up. Tell you what, pro wrestling's a bit weird sometimes, isn't it? Like, Tegan Nox comes back from that injury and she loses her big takeover match against Dakota Kai, but still felt like she had purpose and momentum and was on the rise. And then they have that big banger follow-up in the cage on television, and she loses that as well, but still feels like she has purpose and momentum and something big is going to happen for her. And then this week, she wins a match, an important match with actual stakes, and I'm sat there going, oh, I've ruined that. Yeah, that might sound really weird because she did need a win, and a significant win at that, but making her and Deonna Purrazzo just throw together a really sloppy quasi-squash did really not help either of them. Nox needed a win, but she needed a substantial win, and having to squash somebody in just a really underwhelming match like this just sort of says, all right, so you can beat people who don't matter, you can beat goobers, but when it comes to the big events, you can't get it done. This needed to be an intense back and forth match in which she just about emerged victorious, showing that when the chips are down, she can get the job done, not just steamroller people who are not on her level. Basically, right, this was a significant match with a significant prize at the end of it, and they forced them to book an insignificant contest to get there. It is, sadly, a down. Alright, so up next, it was Undisputed Era versus the Broserweights, but before we could get started, Velveteen Dream comes out onto the plinth of destiny of the balcony of patter, the balcony of banter, and he starts to dress down the Undisputed Era. And I'm just going to give myself a little minute here. According to him, you see, it was a masterstroke. Velveteen Dream never actually wanted Roderick Strong. He only wanted Adam Cole. He wanted a championship opportunity against Adam Cole. And the only way, the genius way to go about that is, of course, returning with Roderick Strong's wife and child on your tights, challenging him to a match, winding him up so much that he challenges you to a cage match, then letting him win said cage match on the off chance that Adam Cole would then get into it and you could beat him up a bit. Why didn't I think of that? And he stood there and he addressed the performance and he went, come on, idiots, it's just tights. Imagine being the kind of idiot like Roderick Strong who would think that tights actually meant something. That's a face, by the way, and of course the entire crowd thought that the tights meant something. So you're all idiots, says the face, as the heel goes, well, hang on, you've not done anything. You can't just have a title shot because you want one. You haven't earned anything, which is a very valid point. And he's the heel, and Dream's the face, and this is falling off a cliff. Basically, right, it looks like Dream is going to have to fight his way to the TakeOver main event. It looks like he's going to have to win some matches in order to get Adam Cole. And all I'm going to say is, he could have just done that from the start, without the tights, and without Marina Shafir, and without Roderick Strong, and without the cage match. If he just had to win some matches, he could have just won some matches. This is so stupid. Down. Anyway, there was a match to be had, and Undisputed Era took on the Broserweights to try and reclaim their NXT Tag Team Championships. I don't think any of us thought for a second the belts were going to change back hands, but wrestling is suspension of disbelief, and I have to say they did a pretty darn good job of making you think that was going to happen. And do you really need me to detail this match to you at all? Undisputed Era Broserweights, the team that gets the best out of absolutely everybody versus the best team in WWE right now. Don't get me wrong, they held back an awful lot, which would probably tell you there's going to be a big rematch, probably a takeover match at some point, but it was back, it was forward, everybody in it looked absolutely great, except for the grizzled young veterans who came out to interfere and try and cost the Broserweights, which didn't really make any sense, and then kind of got mugged off in the process. They looked like dorks and they didn't give Zach Gibson a microphone, so I hated it, but the whole match just about worked. It was just about very good, just about very, very good, just about enough. But we weren't finished there, were we? Because Tommaso Ciampa came out and he had all kinds of bones to pick with Johnny Gargano. Now, you know my point about how I hate everything being advanced with brawls because it leaves me numb to brawls. Well, lo and behold, they hadn't had any big brawls on this show. We'd had a lot of variety, and when the brawl came, it meant the brawl was good. First off, I really like the poetry of it all, starting in the Performance Center for them and then them finally getting their hands on each other in the Performance Center and even using parts of the Performance Center as a weapon. It had all the necessary impact, this brawl. I wasn't worn down by them, I wasn't sick of seeing them. I was like, oh, this feels necessary and important and violent, and yes, I want to see them do this, which it never normally does, and I liked it. And this is the thing about brawls, right? They only really work when they feel impactful, when they feel inevitable, and when they feel necessary. And this was all three. It looked brutal in parts. That whole "this is a teachable move" genuinely had me quite scared. It was definitely necessary because of how this has been boiling over, and it was definitely inevitable because they were both there, and I mean, it had been coming. So NXT, if you're watching, and I know you are, if there's one lesson we can take from this week, it's that if you're gonna give me a big brawl, don't ruin it with 3 other brawls. Thank you very much. This one gets an up. And why the hell not, since I've got such a particular NXT in my bonnet over this one, I'm gonna give it the yellow jacket as well. Completely forgot to say, by the way, when Undisputed Era were coming down to the ring, we got this perler from your pal and mine, Mauro Ranallo. It goes as follows. NXT emanating from the WWE Performance Center, where push-ups are indubitably part of the curriculum. And guys, when Chuck Norris, who celebrated his 80th birthday yesterday, does a push-up, he doesn't lift himself up, he pushes the world down. And Bobby Fish, speaking of Earth, refers to UE as the baddest team on God's green. And you know what it is? Do you know what it is, right? Hello there, everybody, and welcome to your girlfriend's favorite segment of NXT Ups and Downs, which is nothing like what Simon Miller does, called Ronaldo Body Talks Like That, in which we take the outlandish, obscure pop culture references that Mauro Ranallo shoehorns in to every line of commentary to try and make them make sense for you, a normal person. Now, this week it was Chuck Norris, who nobody has made a joke about since about 2009, and even then, they weren't particularly funny. I can only assume he's tried to reverse engineer a joke about the Earth, purely so he can say the meanest on God's green. But even if he hadn't, even if there was some logical reason for doing it, Mauro, my man, Ronaldo Body Talks Like That. But as ever, let me know what you made of it all in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I've been Adam Clery, hashtag on Thursdays we wear yellow. And just before I go, right, I just want to say that between this week's episode of Ups and Downs and next week's episode of Ups and Downs, things could get a little bad, a little weird, a little not very pleasant. And I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you any real kind of substantial or important advice, but I can just say this, right? Just be good to each other. Yeah, things will be fine if we're all just nice. I think look after one another is what I'm trying to say, and don't be a dick. Goodbye.